Today we're going to work on this little wall plate or hanging sign, if you want to call it that, for your wood shop. It's a fairly simple piece to cut out, nothing too complicated here, but I wanted to show you the general setup and how I'm going to do it, and you can make your own modifications as you go along, of course. First of all, this is going to be cut out of a piece of plywood for the framework. Now the lettering is going to be cut out in the wood itself. I've also got a couple of holes here for hangers. You can either screw it onto the wall or you can hang it up, whatever you want to do. And then of course you've got a little image up here. What I'm going to do with the image is cut that out separately on another piece of wood, another color wood, and after we finish the lettering, we're going to glue that right down so that it sort of juts out on the top of the sign. Could have done it as a sort of an inlay, a partial inlay, but I think it's just as easy to cut it out and stick it on there with some CA glue. Now, the lettering, of course, always becomes a problem when you're cutting letters out of a piece of wood. You sometimes get a situation like the letter O, for example, which if you cut it out as it is normally printed, your center will drop out, and of course you got this ugly looking O. So what you have to do, if you come upon that problem, is use a font that is a stencil font. Now some of those are pretty standard, and they become rather tedious after a while. It's better, I find anyways, and I use print shop elements to do all my designs. And what I do is I take any font, really, you can take any one at all, and make it into a stencil font by taking out sections of the letters. For example, I've got a demonstration here. Here we have the word wood, for example, up on the top with the W-O-O-D. The O-O-D, you can see right away, is going to be a problem. If I were to cut that out of the piece of wood, the O in the center would drop out, and it wouldn't look right at all. If I cut the D out, the center would go also, and it would really look awkward. So what I do is on the print shop, I'll just take a line and draw a thick line right through it to make the lettering come out properly when it's completed. Now, if you don't work in print shop, of course, you can still do this. You could take a piece of tape and put it down over the lettering if you wanted to just get a reference point for cutting, or you could draw a line through it. If you're good at imagination, you could just eyeball it, and as you're cutting, you see where you want to have a space there. But if you can do it on a program like Print Shop, you can actually get these letters made up properly, and your sign will look pretty good in the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to start to cut this out. Now, first of all, what I want to do is take this image off of here, because that's going to be cut separately. So we'll take a little blade here and just cut around it. We don't want to damage the pattern too much because we want to use it. Just slice down here. Hopefully I'm not blocking your view too much. Okay, draw a line here, and we can just pop that right out. Now I've got a nice little separate pattern that we can lay down on a different piece of wood to do our cutting, which will eventually be placed at the top of the sign. Now the wood I'm going to use for the board itself is this here, and this is from a drawer I found on the side of the road. People are throwing these things out all the time, of course. It's a piece of plywood is what it is, with an oak veneer on it, and this will make a good sign base in itself. What we're going to do is put some tape on this, of course, and then we'll put our pattern down and we'll be able to cut that out. So if you want some free wood, you might want to look around your streets as you drive around. You sometimes find some pretty good looking wood out there. This is, of course, so-so plywood, but sometimes you find some really nice pieces of wood as well. So let's first of all start with putting some tape on here. I usually tape this up when I'm going to make a cut so that I can put my pattern down later on and be able to peel it off as well. I'm going to put this tape down here now. Okay, we got that pretty well taped up. I'm going to back off a little bit here, show you what I end up doing here. Instead of wrapping it around the sides, because sometimes it gets caught on the table if you do that, and I don't really need to join any boards together. I'm just going to flip this over, take my blade here, and just zip down the sides. A little bit awkward, but I'm trying not to block the camera here, but be able to just peel those right off. And they'll usually come off neatly if you do a good job of cutting, which I didn't. This side is much better because I was able to cut it off neatly. Okay, all right, now what we want to do next is cut our pattern out a little bit. Take the edging off here. We don't really need all this paper. We're trying to glue something down. Cut all this excess off. And what I'm going to do is take this over to my gluing table, and I'm going to use my glue stick to glue up the back of this and put it down on this board. Okay, I'm back. I got this all glued up on the back of my pattern. I want to fit my pattern on here now. Right to the edges. Press this down. That's nice and smooth. You can see where that other piece is going to fit in up there eventually. Now what we have to do is drill some entry holes on the letters and then bring it over to the scroll saw and start our cutting. So I'm going to go do that. I'll see you over at the scroll saw. Okay, I got those holes drilled out, the holes that I needed for entry blade. Plus, while I was over there, I drilled out a couple of holes for the hangers as well. I'm going to start cutting these letters out. I'm not going to bore you with the whole thing. I'll just get it started. We'll speed it up and go through the quick process of getting those letters all cut out. See if I can do it without breaking a blade this time. Use one of Steve Good's clamps here to help me tighten this thing down. It seems to get on there really nice and firm when I use it. Oh, we're off to a good start. Already broke a blade. Okay, let's try again. Okay, I finished cutting the board. Even though I had some problems along the way. Started out, as you recall, with a broken blade. And then when I put the pattern down, I used a glue stick, which is fine normally, but I ran out of stick there, and I was in a rush to get the video done, and so I didn't really glue it, put enough glue on the back, and so of course as I went cutting along, I ran into problems with some of the pieces of the letters pulling off as I was going along. That's not always good to do, but in spite of all of the little problems along the way here, in addition to a big one, my video camera, or the camera that I use, the video element, decided to stop working, so I wasn't able to finish the cutout on screen. But I'm now using my phone here, and we'll see what I can do with this. I can't prop it up, so I'm going to have to do it in pieces here. But in any event, it looks like the board came out pretty good. Now this, as I said, was a piece of scrap wood that I found on the side of the road. It was a drawer. I broke it apart and am using the plywood portions of it. And it's a sturdy piece of plywood too, and probably one of the reasons why the blade kept getting dull on the way through. The finish, it looks like it's almost finished already, but what I think I'm going to do is sand this down, and when I put my sealer on it, it'll probably set into the wood a lot better. So, alright, the next thing we want to do is to move on to work on the little image that I'm going to be placing up at the top of the board. So we'll work on that now. Alright, in my scrap bin I found a nice piece of Paduke here, which will probably make a nice piece to use this image on. I'm going to tape this up, of course, and cut it out, just as I did with the sign itself. And then we'll come back later on for the gluing. So let's get on that now. Okay, I cut that plane out of that nice piece of Paduke there. And what I'm going to do now is take it over here to my sand flea, and I'm going to give it a little buffing up. Okay, it's looking a lot better now. Nice and rounded over on the edges there and smoothed out quite a bit. What I want to do, I have to do this with one hand here now that I have to go with my Moto 5 here. What I'm going to do now, of course, is take it and glue it down on the top of the sign, and it should look pretty good. But before I do that, what I want to do is go over to my router, and I have a 1/4 inch bit in there, round over a bit. I'm going to go around the edges here, all the way around to... Okay, I finished sanding down the top and all around the edges on the buffing wheel there, the sanding mop, and came up pretty good. It's all ready to be sprayed with a lacquer now. I used the SP10 medium adhesive CA glue to put the plane down on the top here, and I think that'll hold pretty nicely. I'm going to take it over and spray it now, and we'll take a look at the finished product when we're done.